Welcome to the Ramble Cast After Dark. There's no song tonight. There's no Jack. There's no Chris.
It's just your two fan favorites.
Just Nick and Matt kicking the shit. We were talking like we do before we record. And then it's just like, okay, when's Jack showing up? I guess we should just hit record and start. So he's probably either talking Padres or he was like Nick and almost forgot that we had a show tonight.
Well, I tell you, like what what really threw me off today was that. So to tell you this story, I got to tell you a little bit of another story.
Are you sure you want to tell me, or do you want to save it for Jack in case?
No. Jack won't. Jack really won't.
He won't care.
He won't care. It's kind of computerish, you know.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
he doesn't know anything. He's probably just struggling to reboot his computer right now.
So my dad has this really old music system for around his swimming pool, and it requires an iPod Classic.
Right. I think I remember you talking about that.
So he did in around November get a eBay kind of refurbished iPod Classic that has like 300 gigs on it, which they never made one that big. It's just got a different kind of memory inside of it. And he said, hey, if I send you this, can you just make me a real kick-ass iPod with like all the kinds of music I like? I was like, yeah, no problem. So he got it, I got it in. And then from that point on, just when I had spare time, I would just start to make a playlist for Dad, for that iPod. And I finished it last night, roughly around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And the iPod, of course, was completely dead of the battery. So I was like, shit. So I plugged it up, was letting it charge. And I was like, well, I've got a few hours before bed. Let me do something I should do as an adult. And let's back up this external hard drive that I've got that's got all my music on it. I was like, let me back it up to this thing over here. And I have got a crap ton of music. It's been collecting for over 30 years. It's all digital. I burned CDs. I've got all this, live shows, all this stuff that's in there.
Sure.
And it gets about halfway done, a little bit more than halfway done. And it just kind of freezes for some reason while
I hate that.
Copying this. And I'm looking at it and it's froze on Pink Floyd because I've got so much Pink Floyd that it doesn't want to move this huge file in one go. So I'm like, okay, no worries. I deleted what was being transferred. And I went to go check on the battery status of the iPod. I turned back around and it's got this weird kind of search, kind of like almost like Kit in Knight in Knight Rider, just going back and forth like a Cylon. And I'm like, what in the hell? And I give it a good 10 or 15 minutes and it just keeps doing it. And I'm like, all right. So I just hard restart the computer and it no longer recognizes my external hard drive.
Oh, fuck.
And
we'll see you on the dark side of the moon.
And it just, and the thing is that I've always
was here.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
Well, I've always been very good at having, the computer, an external, and a backup.
Right.
But the computer that I had, it was from 2009. And I got Chris to get me another iMac Mini, and I didn't require any memory in it because I just needed it to click up externals to it. And I had everything on this one external until I could get another one and back it up. So that's what I was doing in that moment. And I am like, this is it. And it's not only my music, it's every digital photograph I've taken since 2005. It's all these it's tons and tons of stuff.
I'm having beads of sweat in my eyes just thinking about this because I have an external hard drive. It's sitting right here. So it's my I can't pull it up because it's connected. But I call it everything.
Right.
So, and it's like all the family photo archives. And I worked really hard at organizing them, like going through all my other digital file stuff, collecting it, making sure that it's like, okay, this is this year, this is this month, this is this event, and you're just, and that takes days to do this shit.
Yeah.
So that is, you're talking about something that I've been meaning to do with my own.
Right.
And now I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to do that.
And that's even like how my music albums are organized. People, when they see on my truck console or on my iPhone.
Mhm.
It's not. I'm not. It's not just like here is Abbey Road. It's like no,
Mhm.
this is Abbey Road, released in September of 1969. Like I've got all the details written out on
Right.
it. I've got you know this was the A side, this was the B side of the singles. I've got like in
Mm.
every single thing of every artist I've got that way. And it's just my OCD of like wanting to know that knowledge of like this
Yeah.
was the single off of the record. This was the B side off of that record. And anyway, to make a long story short of where I was going. So I worked from about 8 to probably 11 this morning, and it was just on my brain. I kept
Yeah.
hooking this external up to other computers. It would not
Just
recognize it.
praying that it would.
Just kind of
Yeah.
kick back onto life. And so then
Yeah.
I started yelping and looking on just the internet to trying to
Mhm.
find a data recovery center in Fort Collins.
Mm.
And there was, many, and I went to a couple and they're like, oh, no, we don't do that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I
Mm.
finally found someone to go, oh, you need to go to this person. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mm.
So I drove up there.
You need to go to the wizard on the
Yeah, like
mountain.
the person. And
Yeah.
they immediately hooked it up and they're like, oh, well, first they let me know. They're like, okay, so worst case scenario, we're going to have to do complete data recovery. This is going to cost you from $750 to $1,200. And I was like, okay. And then they're like, and once I look at it, possibly it might not be damaged, and we might just be able to transfer it from from this external to another
Mhm.
external. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. So he hooked it up to his PC on Linux, and of course, then
Mhm.
all the files are protected, but all the files are still there and we're still good. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. He goes, yeah, it's just for some reason it's probably some kind of file organization thing that got corrupted in this
Mhm.
process. He goes, so our expert's going to be in tomorrow.
Mm.
And he'll take a look at it. I went ahead and bought him an external. I was like, here's another external.
Right.
And like, just let me know tomorrow. And
Mhm.
but like they were pretty confident it's going to be the good, the positive of like, yeah, like it's probably going to be $100. Just, we'll just move it
Yeah.
to another one. You'll be good. I'm like, oh, thank God. And of course I had to like fill out a form of like, what's priority
Mm.
just in case. I was like,
Mhm.
photographs are priority. Music is
Right.
secondary, but,
Yeah. Hmm.
uh, but yeah,
Jeez.
that
Weird.
made me a little relief, but it was just one of those where my head was just there all day. Like
Sure.
this is 30
Yeah.
years of my life, or more.
Well, and I mean, as someone who spent kind of like the cold winter months, because you can't organize shit in a day, in a month, and in a week or 2 weeks. It's like a lifelong process of organizing this shit. Digital data.
It is.
It.
Yeah.
I mean, like doing all of my family photographs. It was just like, and you're going through old stuff and just double checking, like, okay, I got that. Oh, wait, I didn't get these 5 like fucking photographs from this memory stick and
Mhm.
some random, okay, goes in there. So it's doing that, but then it's also like we said, like the organizing, like, oh wait, like I gotta look at the metadata on this because I don't know. And oh, this metadata is wrong. I know that this isn't 2004, this is a 2002 picture, and
Right.
you're trying to like sort it out, and make sense of it. And so yeah, like because I also have physical photographs,
Yeah.
and then you also have stuff that you've transferred from physical into scans, and you have a whole, and I have artwork that I've also, so I have a whole thing that I call my archive. And it's just all, it's like broken down into categories. And then so yeah, no, it's that's a lot. And I would be freaked out too.
Yeah.
So
Because I called my dad, just to kind of tell him, I was like, hey, this is just where my head's at right now. Like what,
mm,
it's like, because it's like, because that's what was funny. My mom was kind of eavesdropping on the conversation. And then when I said like worst case scenario, it's $1,200. She's like, that's a lot of money. I was like, it's really nothing compared to all of the
not having
albums
it.
not having
Yeah.
it. Yeah. It's like, it's
Yeah.
nothing. The $1,200 is nothing compared to
Right.
like the time and the money to get all of that music back, to
Right.
the memories of the photographs are just gone.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
like, so it's like, I would easily,
And
he could have
and
told me 2,000 or 3,000. I've been
right.
like, fine.
Right. So, I mean, especially with photographs and that aspect, like the ease of being able to get them back, it's worth it. Um, Now to music, and we've talked about this before, is that there's a digital gold in having a soundtrack because
Mm.
if you go to a streaming site like Apple, sometimes it's like good luck finding that soundtrack.
Right.
because a lot of times it's like, you know, the contracts have lapsed on that. Like
Mhm.
they're not going to put it together in this kind of, you know, collection again, because some of those artists like only paid for it for so long. You know what I mean? Like stuff gets broken up and you
Mhm.
can't get cool soundtracks. You know, you have to get the digital part, load them into your system so that's your own personal copy. But
Right.
there's some stuff that's like, nope, you
Some
know.
of those are good, especially if the soundtrack only has like that particular take or that it's a unique to that soundtrack. But then like take Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, the
Mhm.
soundtrack. You know, all those songs you can easily just pick, you know, cherry pick off of iTunes and put it together yourself, which is a
Sure.
lot of times what I do. It's like, oh yeah, I like that song. I forgot. I need to buy that one. So I'll just find the artist and buy it off of their original record, not the soundtrack. But you're right though. I mean, I do miss those days. And sometimes I love soundtracks, and sometimes I hate them because
Sure.
uh, there could be some song that you really liked, but it was just like this gem that no one knew about, and then
Mhm.
somebody puts it on a soundtrack, and then everyone just like likes the song, and you're like, yeah, I'm glad you like the song, but I like that no one knew that song but me. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's why I always liked High Fidelity so much because that's
Sure.
kind of what it's like. You know, you just kind of like I'm the guy who
I
knows that.
I don't know. I guess there's part of me that doesn't I don't know.
Well,
I don't
I remember Billy Joel talking about the band Traffic one time.
mm,
How Traffic never really made it. You know, they never were a popular band because they were kind of a jam band, but not
mhm,
really. And he said that, he goes, before I, you know, was even a name, he goes, my band was Traffic. I
mhm.
loved Traffic. He goes, and then all of a sudden, I forget what he said, but something like, you know, then it was like that band that I used to go, hey, listen to this, you know, like, you know, because you
Mhm.
wanted, you know, and then, you know, of course, Steve Winwood eventually, you know, became famous, but it's just,
Yeah.
it's, I get what he was saying.
Yeah, I guess I've been around enough music files that I don't dig on the like this is my precious, you
Right.
know, like I don't know. I've known of enough music files that get real kind of greedy about some of that stuff, and I'm like, share the love, man. Like I kind of, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I understand. It's like, hey, this is my thing, you know, and then if a band gets too big too fast, then they'll break up, you
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely.
and that happens, you know. It's just like it's like just the right temperance of like, you know, fire, pressure, popularity, and you
Well,
know.
that's what sucks about especially today's music scene is that one, there's no such thing as an album anymore. No one cares about a good album. It's like always just about
Mhm,
like that one track. And uh but you have to hit it. You have to make it like on your
mhm.
first attempt. And if you don't, you're just cut, you know. And there's so many good bands that never found their feet
Sure.
because they had to wait. Like, I mean, you listen to Bob Dylan's first record, it's atrocious because it's just covers and he has got like two songs on it.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
we kind of
imagine if
talked about that with the movie too.
with the movie, that's right. But
Yeah.
like, but you know, imagine if someone would have said, "Ah, you're done," you know, because
Right.
your first record hit, and then you never had Bob Dylan or Simon and
Mm.
Garfunkel, same thing. You know, their first record was the exact same. It was all covers and two of their songs, and uh, you know, there's some. I mean, Pink Floyd did it right in that after Sid Barrett left, they reduced their royalties to have more studio time and to have that leeway to experiment because they
Mm.
weren't songwriters yet. And so it was like, oh, well, we got a record contract, but what we'll do is, you know, you guys get more of the money for a while and then let us just kind of figure it out. But that's why even up into the wall, they were fucking broke. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't know that Pink Floyd didn't make hardly any kind
Mhm.
of money.
Um, the thinking about like how many times you have to try something in order to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you're familiar with the artist Todd McFarlane?
Yes, I
Yes.
believe
Okay.
so.
He famously made kind of Spider-Man really popular in the late 80s with a web kind of design. Eventually went off to make Spawn, and then he also had
Gotcha.
his own line of toys, McFarlane Toys,
Mhm.
as well as like he did a lot of card stuff but there's something about him being rejected like 700 times before he finally got through to until like Marvel, I think, hired him, and then his style really kind of like just took off, so so just that aspect of like
Yeah.
like being an unknown, sometimes it's like how many times you have to try to just like break through that glass ceiling. It's like, sure, you could have one album, Bob, and then he's like, oh, time to pack it in and go back to Minnesota. I didn't make it, but
But then I feel sorry for a lot of artists like Nick Drake or
oh, for sure.
or like Pete Ham, I think was his name, the lead singer and songwriter for Badfinger. Because they had great songs, and Pete Ham's the worst. I think Pete Ham's his name. He had one of the most tragic stories in rock and roll, and that he did everything right. He got signed by Apple. He let Paul write him a hit song, but then he really blossomed to his own. He had hit after hit in the early 70s, but he was smart about it. He said, all right, to my manager, take all of my money, put it in a nest egg, because I don't want to be comfortable. I want to always, until I feel like I'm done writing, I want to struggle. Like
he wants to stay hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to stay hungry. And then in 1974, 75, when he kind of felt, okay, I've been in the industry 7 years now. Let's start living a little bit. The manager stole all of his money.
Ugh,
he had nothing. Yeah, because Apple ran out in 75. So, his contract at Apple ran out in 75. And he had nothing. And he hung himself. He killed himself.
Jesus.
And it's just like, after everything I've done, I did everything right, and I got screwed.
Yeah, no, that's tragic. So, it's also tragic. Jack, he just was like, you know what?
Ghosted us.
Yeah, I mean, are we in a Twilight Zone? Like, nobody's even in the chat too. So I'm just kind of like, it's just us. So this is a weird. Is there something happening May the 1st that we don't know about? Is this a Star Wars kind of thing? Yeah. Hey, speaking of Star Wars, and this will always bring Jack around. Yeah. Did you see any of the new Lego Star Wars?
I did. They're not coming. Nothing is coming in my head right now. I know.
I know, because there's. Oh, hey, Sherry. Sherry's listening. Thanks for joining us. Nothing really kind of caught my eye. They're really kind of pushing the Django Fett.
Right,
shift.
Yeah, which I'm not going to get that.
Yeah, but, and then they had.
I know what the exclusive is. The May 4th is the little the clone.
It's a clone. It's a clone training kind of
training.
Yeah, and then you also get this like little kind of tiny micro Millennium Falcon kind of thing. It's. There was really nothing about the specials that they had this year that I was like, oh, I need to get something. And then I looked at the sets, and there was nothing that really spoke to me.
I really think Lego is starting to price themselves out. Like they're charging way too much for a lot of their sets. Like they were doing I saw a comparison the other day of like battle packs, just something that's always been cheap.
Yeah,
like for anyone who doesn't know what a battle pack is, it's basically where you want a bunch of clone troopers, or you want to you get a bunch of minifigs because you want to have like a battle scene. So it's like, here's 4 regular soldiers, here's like a lieutenant, and you get like these things, and you get like a little bit of like maybe a scooter or something with it. And they used to be like $9.99 like 12 years ago, and then they went to $14.99, which is still reasonable, and now they're getting to where they're $25.
Sure.
And it's just like, are you serious? Like, it's just a bunch of minifigs. It's not anything, and they're not worth anything because they're mass produced. So it's not like they're going to be a certain set that's like, oh yeah, this figure's worth 50 or $60. No, it's nothing. And that kind of bums me out. And then I finally did.
They do have a U-wing.
But it's cheap looking. It's
so
cheap. Like it's way less parts. Like the one from Rogue One is 150% better.
Right. Well, I mean, it's kind of like what they did with the Ghost when they brought the Ghost back, like the more recent Ghost. It's cool because it has Jason and stuff. But the build is and it's slightly better because you have a little bit more of the bottom, but
I've got them both. I haven't put together the new one. I haven't put together a new set in years. I buy them still, but I still.
Well, my son,
the botanicals.
My son is working on. He got the Shire.
Oh yeah, I want that. I have to buy Riverdale first before that one goes out of print. Then
Rivendale was their Christmas gift. My kids, they both got Rivendell, and it took them a long time to put it together, because
that roof is a stress test. Getting all those things at the right angle, like, oh my god.
Well, and they would take turns on it. But it's a really beautiful set,
It is.
and we kind of have it at the end of our table, dining room table. It kind of sits because it's got trees, and it's the Shire, or that's not the Shire. It's Rivendell. The Shire, which he started on. It's cool because it is modular. It can break apart, similar to the way the Ev wanted it to be deeper. So he's already kind of like, well, I'd like to make it bigger in the back, basically. Which we all wanted a little bigger in the back.
Of course, I know you read my brain.
No, but it is cool though, and it has a lot of cool minifigs. When we heard that they were doing the Shire, Ev and I, reading Lord of the Rings and what have you, but we wished that they had focused, and I get it. Lord of the Rings it's the money movie, but we wish that they would have focused more on the Hobbit setting, because you could have had the whole dinner scene, and like the have the dwarves have that, kind of.
Well, I mean, they did do that with the Hobbit set. That's what's 13 years old now, but
right.
I have that one, and that has all the hobbits. I mean, the dwarves.
The dwarves does it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like that's kind of what I was saying about Lego kind of pricing stuff out. There's so many sets now that I really want, but they're all like $500.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so, like I'm saying, I want all three right now. Lord of the Rings sets.
If it has a license, if it has a movie license to it, like, you're already adding $100 to the set.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're just kind of saying, like, well, what do you want to build? So the one set that I'm just going to kind of like trash. It could have been cool if they had put some minifigs with it, but I guess then they would have had to have slapped another $50 on this thing. But Lego has made just the Star Wars logo.
Oh, right. I need to send you a photo.
And it's just the Star Wars logo.
Yeah. Well, I saw someone get really creative with it, which I really liked this idea. So, because you build like the star, then the war separately. And what they did was they kept it separate, and they put like the clear spacers at the ends, and then they put minifigs in between. And so so it's like Vader, Luke,
gotcha.
Episode 1. So it's all the original. Well, you can put whichever ones you want. Yeah. But I got a picture. I'll send it to you. That's like, if I buy it, that's exactly what I'm doing.
It'd be cool to kind of put like a star field behind it, or just make or do something where you kind of have like shooting lights kind of coming out from it or something like that. But that did give me the idea that you could separate it. Well, then you could even go so far, and I can imagine some people making some mods where you put Empire in between the two words, or you could kind of put other words in there. So I guess I can see some. I just first thought, I was just like, what, no minifigs? This just, I mean, at least with the Marvel one, they had all of the minifigs popping around it, and I was like,
I didn't even really look at it that much. I assumed those figures came with it. But I was like, oh, I guess what you're telling me, it comes with none. I was like, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
And then there's some set that is way overpriced that I saw recently. It's like, oh, it looks like a cool set, but it should be roughly like $80 or $70, and they want like $120 for it. I'm like, you're out of your mind. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's just too many sets now where they're asking an arm and a leg for something that shouldn't cost that much.
Right.
But anyway, I love Lego sets. I mean, I always want them all, but
well, and the more complicated, the more fun they are to build, for sure. So
yeah, someone was asking somewhere on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. It's funny because I've been collecting now for 12, 13 years, like regularly, and sets that I got, even though it doesn't seem it was that long ago to me, but they're long out of print. And someone put a photograph up of Ghostbusters Fire Station, and the other one was from the Lego Movie 2, Apocalypseburg, which was the Statue of Liberty thing.
Oh, yeah.
I almost got that one when it was going out of print, but then I was like, but someone was saying, like, which one of these is better, do you think? And I said, well, Ghostbusters one's the one's gonna be worth money and the one that's iconic. I was like, but
Mhm.
as in fun of build, it's gonna be
Yeah.
Apocalypseburg because the Ghostbusters Tower is literally the same thing over and over and over again because you're just building a red
Right.
block.
Right. Yep.
Uh, it's kind of
And
like the Saturn V rocket was one of the most boring builds
mm,
ever.
I the one thing about the Fire's House, it would be cool with the cityscape. I have a lot of the modulars.
Yeah,
I have practically the whole town. Um, so
I'm
except
only
for
missing one.
probably the newest one that just dropped. I haven't
Oh yeah,
picked
I
that
got
one
that.
up.
Yeah,
So
I that's the one set.
so
No matter how in debt I am, I will always every January 1st buy
yeah.
the modular. The only one I don't have is Cafe Corner. I do have
Mm-hmm.
a knockoff of it, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
have the actual set because I'm not paying three
Yeah.
grand for
Sure.
a Lego.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, you will pay $3,000 to get your photos back. So,
those are worth more.
um, you know, if you're looking to hold something hostage against Nick,
Yeah.
it's his music and his photos. So,
Well, it's just it's such a big part of my life or
no, no, no,
anyone's
I get
life.
it. No,
Yeah.
I'm glad that everything turned out.
Well, so far, I'll find out tomorrow.
It's not gonna turn out
Commercial break.
pretty much.
All right. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I did when I found out what my income tax return was going to be. I did buy Avengers Tower finally. That
Oh,
was the
okay.
only thing I bought because I was like, okay,
Mhm.
that one's been out for at least 3 years now. I need
You're
to.
like it's on the you're
It's
trying to
gonna
get it
get
before that goes out.
right. So I was like, I
Yeah.
got to get it because it's already
Mm.
expensive. It is, and as soon as they announce that thing's going out of print, it's just going to shoot through the
Right.
roof. So need to get that. So I got that one. Like I've got a list, wish list. It's ridiculous, but yeah, like I said, the
Mhm.
ones I really want are those expensive ones. So I've
Yeah.
still got to get Sauron's Tower and Rivendell and the
Yeah,
Hobbit.
my son, he's fine with not having the tower. He was just like the Shire, Rivendell, like, he wants the peaceful
Uh,
cities and what have you. So,
well,
um
I always try when those get announced because usually Lego will have an exclusive if you buy it the day it's
right.
released, and so I always go out of my
So
way to get the
so
exclusives.
so
Yeah.
he was, you know, he was dropping big hints
Hmm.
about when the Shire was going to drop, because he was like, "Hey, it's gonna come out. It's gonna drop on this day," and his birthday was coming up. So, he was like laying big hints for this, and so I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll keep that in mind."
Did you get you a job, son? That's $500 set.
No, I don't think that's 500. I mean, it
Well,
is an
oh, that's
expensive
right.
stuff.
It's a little bit less, yeah, than
Yeah,
Rivendell. That's
it
right.
was it
Like
was
$3.99, I think, or something.
I I can't remember how much I paid for it. But anyway, he kept dropping big hints about it. I said, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll keep that in mind." And meanwhile, I'm like, "I've already got it bought." Because
Oh,
I
nice.
because because the day that it came out, the Lego Insiders, you're right, there was a bonus set, and it was Smeagol and Deagle, and
Right, on the river.
they're
Yeah.
on a little boat, and they have the ring. So he, and but he didn't. You know, it was a
Well
pretty big birthday present. So
well,
he knew he wasn't getting a lot else.
oh, yeah. That's
Yeah, it's like so.
just so you know, kid, this is your only gift because it's a big one. Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
like for Sauron's Tower, because I was in Kuala Lumpur when that one got released last May,
mm.
and the exclusive for it was the Fell Beast, the
Oh
The
yeah,
Nazgul,
the Nazgul.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
on the when he's trying to get at you know at Frodo with the ring, and I was like, oh, I've got to have that, because it
Yeah.
was just released on that day. And I think I bought like 2 or 3 of them.
Oh
like,
wow.
because like, oh, I wanted to give one to somebody, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have
Mhm.
one that I'm gonna open and one I'm never gonna
Yeah.
open, And,
Well, I hope we haven't bored you, Sherry, with all of our Lego talk. Since you seem to be one
our
of the
one
few
of
people.
attendee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, listening in. So
We've lost a couple of our regulars this last month. I haven't seen a few people.
I haven't seen Randy in forever. I know he's been
Randy and Will hasn't been
traveling.
here, and there's a few
Will,
people.
Mike, he's just like whatever, guys.
Yeah,
But we've also been kind of irregular. We've
that's
had
true.
some busy times. So, but I mean,
Well, since Jack isn't here, we kind of mentioned this. Like, I did go see the 20th anniversary re-release of Episode 3, Star Wars.
nice.
And it was nice. I originally had kind of was on the fence if I want to see it or not see it. But I was like, when do you really ever get to see Star Wars on the big screen? And it's a good one.
That opening battle scene.
There's always one part that always throws me off, and it's they come in, you have them twins, and they're kind of going, and then it shows them going through. You have the Republic frigate here. And I guess they're really not counting on you watching it, but this really weird laser blast comes out of where the ships would come out of the bottom. It just like, and like it blows this. And I'm like, where the fuck did that blast come from? It's like a Death Star like type blast.
Oh, sure.
And it always throws me off. I'm like, where is that? And I can't, once I see it, I can't not unsee it.
So specific.
Yeah. And but but I enjoyed it. I went and I got the tin metal popcorn with the and I got the Darth Vader helmet drink, and so it was nice. And
I had forgot to mention that to my son over the weekend because to see if he wanted to, and I guess one of his friends went to see it, and then I had asked Ev, I was like, hey, did you want to go see that? And he's, oh no, he's been loving Andor though, as we both have been watching it, which is why I'm an episode behind. I've only seen 4 and 5. I haven't seen the 6th one, mainly just because they're 50 minutes long,
right? I spread them out as well.
Yeah, and it's like, well, and because it comes out at 9 on Tuesday.
Right.
We don't watch it until
7
Wednesday.
my time, so.
Yeah. So you benefit from that. So for us, it's more of like, well, we watch one Wednesday, we watch one Thursday. Sometimes we can fit another one in. So Sherry is asking, have either of you ever added a light set to your Lego builds? Yes.
Yes. I do recommend them. If you've never done it, Sherry, it is stressful to do.
Yes.
Once if you're successful in doing it, you'll love it. You'll be so happy that you did it. Yeah. But because you basically they've already assumed that you've put the set together, most of the ones I've done. And so they want you to kind of like pull little bricks apart so you can put the light in there or put the cord. And these things are so thin and delicate.
Yeah, very, very thin.
If you pinch it wrong, you fucked it. And
I have not run into pinching it wrong or fucking it, but they can be tricky.
Yeah, I did Diagon and Alley with the light set, and it's really nice. Yeah.
So the sets that we did, Sherry, and by we I mean me, but this was something that my wife wanted to do for our Christmas sets, and we didn't do it for all of them, but there's a couple Christmas sets that we have lit up. Now, the problem is that our Christmas sets all go into a tote at the end of Christmas. And with those little wires and stuff like that, sometimes putting them back together and getting all of that, it's just like, and, you're just like, fuck it, and so sometimes that can be a tricky thing. And those Christmas sets are kind of, just to store them, they're irregular and parts fall or what have you. But that said, I do like the way that the Christmas sets can kind of make a little, like a little landscape, Right. It's like, I mean, we don't put out the little cotton balls or anything like that, but
they Sherry, they are expensive. I use Light My Bricks.
I think that's what I did.
And they come in a little black box and with instructions.
Yep.
And they've got all of them categorized, all the cords by size and what they'll do. And
I don't know if they have like I don't know if they have like little instructions or if there's like a little video.
Yeah.
But I I didn't think they were that. I mean, what, $40, 50?
Well, it depends on which ones you're getting. Like for
Yeah,
your sets, for those Christmas ones, they're smaller, so you don't need as
yeah,
many. But if you're doing them like me on modulars,
yeah. I want to
they're
say that like for the two Christmas sets, maybe they were like 30 each or something like that.
yeah, like no, mine were anywhere from 90 to like 130 a piece
Oh
because
wow.
for the modulars, you're
Mm,
doing 3 different levels, and then
right.
for Diagon Alley, you have 4 buildings, so
Sure.
it's a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. I have not done any of the modulars with lights. So mainly because I don't want to tear into the modulars. Although ironically, the modulars really don't move that much. Whereas my Christmas sets, I move them all the fucking time. And I was like, okay, they go back in the set, they come back out of the set. But right underneath our TV, we have a kind of a bookshelf kind of thing that we've built, and we take out some of those little shelf units, and then we put in little Christmas scenes, with all of our little Christmas characters, and it's, there's bound to determine that someone is going to place some weird character in the Christmas scene, because that's just what
It's one of the
that's what you
fun
do.
things. It's
Yeah.
like if you, I'm sure you've seen that meme or just a photo that's funny. It's like these guys like, yeah, 2 years ago I replaced my mom's or my grandmother's photograph of
Oh
Jesus,
right.
put an Obi-Wan Kenobi in there, and she goes,
Yeah.
she's been praying to Obi-Wan Kenobi for forever, and she has no idea that's not Jesus. Like, to me, that's hilarious.
Yeah. No, that's good. Speaking of Christmas and Star Wars Legos, we'll find an end to this topic at some point because Randy's already asleep. He's not even joining us. They also had pictures on Lego for the Star Wars Advent calendar.
Yeah.
2 thumbs down.
Okay. I've
Like,
never bought one ever.
well, I have actually, because they've had some really fun Christmas themed minifigs.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year's was cool because it was Luke and Leia, and they both had Christmas sweaters.
Right.
And then I think the year before that, it was either C-3PO and R2-D2. Oh no, it was Vader. You're right, it was Vader. And then the year before that, I think it was C-3PO and R2-D2. Back again, yet another time. Oh, and I think they've also done the Mandalorian as well, at some point because of him being so popular, and Grogu. But this next one, there's no classic figures except for C-3PO with red eyes. That's it. There's a Jawa with a sweater and a cool R2 chassis, but the head's just white. The chassis is kind of like that darker maroon red. So it's kind of a cool R2. But other than that, it's like there is absolutely nothing in it. I say it's trash. Don't buy it. It's a hard pass by me. Like, unless it was broken. I don't even know if it was. There's nothing in there. I looked through it all. I was like, what is this Advent calendar?
Yeah.
As someone who's gotten the Advent calendars, either for my kids or for myself, because we've done other things too. Like my daughter did one with like kind of gemstone rocks, and it's kind of cool because you're opening up something each
Right.
and it was National Geographic, so it had cool little things about each thing that you open. It's like, oh, here's your pyrite, whatever. So, but anyway, Christmas. Star Wars though, Andor. You watched all three.
Yeah, I watched
no spoilers on the third one for me.
Spoilers, yeah. Like so because like they debut on set 7 for me, not 9, like for you in the East Coast. But yeah, I watched the first 2, and then I watched the third one yesterday, and these were better than the first 3. I felt. I mean, I still, I'm just kind of the person that yearns for a little bit more action, but I get what they're doing now, and I like that they develop and that they are showing.
I think it's more of like seeing those first 3 in context with this, where you're seeing the chess pieces move along. Like we saw where they're at, in the first 3, and specifically the machinations with the different people and all of the different dealings that are happening. Like even with Luthen and what's his face? I can't remember. They kept mentioning his name, but he so slight spoilers ahead for Andor. At least the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 5 episodes in. But we see who he was kind of aligning himself with at the wedding all of a sudden is like, wants these artifacts to be reinspected, and there's this kind of hanging threat that these microphones are going to be found out in his art collection. So um, even with Andor and where he goes and how he's perceived at first and how he's so super paranoid.
Oh yeah.
Well,
You'd have to be, I think
yeah.
if I think the longer in that kind of business, the more paranoid you become, and the more you never trust anybody, and the more you second guess. Because, like, just watching this,
Yeah.
and you see like how the Empire is kind of setting up what they're setting up. You almost wanted to be counterintelligence in a way, and like, okay, so if this is going good for us, why is it going good for us? Like, you have to kind of be second guessing yourself of like,
right.
Should we, get a dummy guy to do this attack? That way, if something does go south, they're the ones that get caught because they don't know anything.
Right.
Always have like a revolving door of people to where it doesn't leak back.
Even when we see Saw Gerrera and
Yeah.
what's happening with him, and I love how the 5th episode ended, and Everest
That's
and
what I
I,
was going to bring up too. Yeah.
Everest and I, we always we watch these together, and so
Now
that episode
planet,
ended, and
that planet that Saul's on,
yeah,
where that's happening, that to me looked like Yavin 4 again. They could have just been reusing that set of during Rogue One, because that's what it looked like. That entire hangar bay looked like Yavin. I know it's not, but it looked like Yavin.
It's Dar from the sequels.
Dar?
That is Dagar, or it is the location of the resistance base that we see in The Force Awakens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry to ruin it for you.
I knew I'd seen the hangar before, though. I was like, this looks familiar.
Yeah. No, it is it's a little bit of Force Awakens thrown in there. So which also kind of makes sense why they would find this base that was kind of abandoned or what have you in the future and kind of use it again. Yeah. So kind of a nice connecting thread.
Yeah, and I'm curious because right now Saul, even though crazy, is pretty much still physically there, and you kind of wonder if we're going to see where he actually becomes dependent on the breathing apparatus, and
well, he's clearly got a drug problem, so
right.
Kids don't do drugs, but I think we see why now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we see why.
Yeah. So I like that we're getting, there's all sorts of things that they're peppering in, even within those episode 4 and 5, where Mothma's talking about these arrest records of the different planets and how they keep increasing. Like they're just kind of rounding up people and throwing them in prisons. And I was like, man, they wrote this like a year ago. But it's very topical, so the aspect that this little bit that they throw in there also kind of makes sense, where we see Jyn in Rogue One.
Oh, right.
And how she's arrested, she's taken up, and that we have these prison planets, Right. So I even like how that kind of leads in, or the double crossing with Cyril and our Dwight and Angela couple, which I loved the scene where she's basically like, turn off the lights.
I don't want to look at you.
And then only later, for him to have this moment with that commanding officer, I can't remember his name, but Cyril's basically like, this is the greatest moment of my life.
Yeah. Is it bad if I say it's a great? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it's bad because you just had sex with her last night, but that wasn't your greatest moment. This is.
Well, anyway. Yeah. I mean, he's such a brown nose or whatever.
That's why it's the Dwight Angela couple.
Yeah. Well, like
She's so buttoned down.
I rarely wish ill on characters, but like that one, I want him to be on the Death Star.
Right.
I want him to be
Mhm.
somewhere. It's like,
Yeah.
just
Well, that would be an interesting thing, though, is that if we find out maybe in these last few episodes, because we're leaving up like, oh, you've got a position on the Death
right.
Star,
You got promoted. Yeah.
yeah, you got promoted. You're gonna report to Grand Moff Tarkin on,
Right.
blah blah blah. It's like cell block 113.
Right.
So, like, so it's Oh, I did want to point out, it's like I don't know if we had any listener feedback, but
Not that I
but
know of.
Maggie had actually reached out to me and she said,
Oh,
"Hey
okay.
Matt, listening to RCAD and you guys are talking about Andor.
Mhm.
Bix didn't have a premonition about being attacked. That's what happened to her on Ferrix in season 1.
Oh.
She was tortured by the Empire. I enjoyed the first 3 episodes of Andor. Nick and Chris are crazy. LOL." So anyway, just
Well,
wanted to
that's not. I mean, that's.
just
I mean,
wanted
yeah. Go
to
ahead.
share Maggie's feedback there with me. But also the fact that I was wrong.
Well, I remember when you said that, I kind of paused. I was like, I don't remember seeing a vision. I
Well,
was like,
I couldn't remember what happened to Bix's character, and I haven't rewatched Andor. What is you suck,
you suck, Jack.
crackpot.
You're the one that's late.
Yeah, where are
46
you?
minutes in.
Yeah, like we've been doing our duty for J&J. Anyway, if you like Jane Jack, and who doesn't, send your hate mail to
Gmail.
rcadcast@gmail.com. Anyway,
One thing I wanted to point out, one of the things it's a slight disappointment is that one of the things I did like in season 1 is that every time they walked into the art exhibit, there was always a nugget somewhere from one of the movies.
sure.
And this season it's just been generic stuff, and I'm like, actually no, that's not true. I did see one of the Naboo headsets.
Oh, okay.
But the rest of it, because I'm always looking like, where, and then I'm like, oh,
I want there to be like a Sith artifact or something
that'd
like
be
that,
cool.
So
A holocron, like a little, or something.
yeah, the Everest and I, we were watching Andor and talking Legos earlier, and so I was like, it would be cool if they made a Luthen art gallery, just they'd cheap out on it and stuff like that. So I just need to have a little mod, but I love the revolving door.
Yeah.
And like how the the ships just kind of fly up in front, and then you got the little radio thing in the back. Come on. Could like have a little lever that makes it flip down.
Yep.
Either join us or shut up, Crackpot
Right.
Sports. I mean, you have time to tune in to watch us, but you're not gonna even jump on. I mean,
We can just start shit talking the Padres and he'd join
yeah,
on in a second.
It's worse than talking about Star Wars. Taking a commercial break.
Another one. Let's see here.
So much easier taking commercial breaks without Jack around.
It is. Yeah, I mean, like I said, but yeah, going back to like what Maggie was saying,
sure.
Or me and Chris being nuts. But that's podcasting isn't fun if we all are just in agreement. So I always have to be that guy because I am that guy.
Sure.
But I enjoy debates, and so if I'm wrong, it's kind of like last week, Matt. Like I pointed out, I was like, you had a really great counterpoint to what I was saying. I was like, yeah, that's great, and that's really why I like not only podcasts but just having conversations with people. It's like, hey, like I'm seeing something from this point of view, and then you come in with another point of view. I'm like, oh, that's great. Never thought of it that way. And to me, that's an adult conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can take some of that and even put it on to what we saw in this first 2 out of 3 for me, but the first, the next 3 is that same aspect of like high society, the grunts, the grunts. I mean, it's like, do you want to get put on the Saw Gerrera squad?
Hell no.
You know what I mean? It's like you're not coming back the same person.
No.
Like at all. So but anyway, I'm glad that at least kind of, made you think about it differently, or opened it up. And I
What
mean, I I guess, I mean, sure, there's a part of me that's just like, do I like seeing Mon Mothma like get shit faced? Yeah, it's okay,
I mean,
but
yeah, I mean, I think it was cheesy, yes, but I get why it kind of needed to happen. I don't know if I would
mhm,
have done it that way,
yeah,
but it's like, yeah, like you just married off your child daughter for money
sure,
and you just murdered your childhood friend. Yeah, you're going to get drunk and have a hoopla, like,
right.
but yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, it is what I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think again, I think we're gonna see these characters play out at least again.
Mm.
Like we're gonna this isn't the last time that we see her child bride. Like I mean, she was an important part of season one. I think giving Mon Mothma some type of context for what she's going to lose. So, but Jack, we're talking Star Wars because you're not here, but apparently you are, just to criticize us. What is this? The Crackpot Sports
The
show
peanut,
now?
the peanut gallery over here of crackpot sports. Uh,
um,
yeah.
yeah. So, I'm not caught up on Righteous Gemstones. I haven't watched the most recent.
No, this this
Recent.
this one was good. Yeah, like the one this Sunday was good. You'll like
I
it. It brings some of the aspects of what we've seen so far this season to a head.
hmm,
Um, so yeah, it's a good episode. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it. Um, yeah, I don't think I've seen it. Wait, no, 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 no. I do remember. Isn't there's a kidnapping, right? Like they
Hmm.
get shot with a dart in the
Yep.
neck.
That's
Yep.
that's
Okay.
this episode. Yep.
That's this episode.
Yeah.
So,
It's a good
okay.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it brought some of that storyline. It's weird because basically that guy, I can't help but think about him from Guardians of the Galaxy. So,
There's so many things. That's what's weird about that guy, that actor, because he was in so much stuff in the early '90s, and then he
hmm,
basically just like disappeared for a decade.
yeah,
Uh,
raised a family.
I guess I don't know, but but you think about he's in Tombstone, he's
Mhm.
in a Cliffhanger, he was in Days of Thunder. He's in so many things, and then you never saw him again. And then he was in The Walking Dead season one, and that was
Right.
the first thing I remember him
Yeah.
back from. And then he was in
Mhm.
Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's just kind of had this reemergence. I'm like, wow, like I'm glad because he's a good actor. So,
My wife and I, we always, when we watch shows or whatever, and it's like we always talk about these actors or actresses that are basically these actors or actresses that are like career, like when you look at their IMDb, they're solid.
yeah,
They're appearing on this show, they're appearing on this show. They're versatile. You don't notice them. They're
mhm,
doing this, they're doing that. And it's like, wouldn't you rather be that actor because you're successful, you're making money,
right. You're a
and you're
steady
you're getting
actor.
parts,
Yeah,
you're staying active, but you're also not one of those like, "Oh, hey, blah, 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 we need your autograph, blah, blah, blah,"
right.
like you'd get the best of both. Like you get to work in the field, but also like have a steady paycheck.
Oh yeah, that's
Uh,
why I've said that for years. Like if I would have been a voice actor or even like a secondary
mm,
actor, that's what I would
mhm.
have picked because if I'm getting steady work just to be the best friend of the main character or even
Yeah.
just a guy that comes in one scene, fuck yeah, and there's
Apparently
50 grand probably right there.
apparently the actor that plays Reacher has a big voice acting career.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know that, but my wife, as Nick, or not as Nick, you're on the show, as Jack can attest, it's like my wife rewatching New Girl. I don't know for how many time, but anyway, that actor is in a episode of New
no.
Girl, and he plays a character who just dates, who has a micro penis, and you
Oh,
know
I remember that. Yeah.
and my wife, she's always curious. She's like, I wonder if that actor is like, like if that was hard for him to just like step into this role where you're gonna say, I've got a micro penis or whatever. And so then she started looking at like all of the stuff that
He's been
he's
in.
done, and
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, he was in this, and yeah, he had some voice acting stuff that I was like
It's just not the role
unaware
you want
of.
to be remembered for.
Right, yeah,
Oh yeah, you're the guy that had the micro penis. Like,
right.
I've
It's
been
like
in other stuff, man.
he wrote a check, and he basically was just like, all right, I'm not gonna, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
And that's what's
He gambled on himself
he did.
that he could overcome the micro penis, so episode.
What's like Friends, like Joey was in a commercial for gonorrhea or
Right.
syphilis or something, and then and then then he's in that other episode where he goes, "Yeah, I was in a porno." He goes, "But I chickened out, so I was just a guy that's watching the people in the porno." And I'm like, uh, yeah. What was I gonna say? But yeah, it's like I was when Val Kilmer passed away. I was looking at his IMDb, and I had always had thought that in my brain that his last really good movie was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which was 2005. And then you start doing the math of how old he was at the time. I'm like, shit, he's my age, like when he did that movie, I'm like, God, and just how time flies,
Sure.
And he'd been in some other stuff past that, but you're just kind of like, oh, like, and I'm sure every actor, you never think, this is the last movie I'm going to be in.
Yeah.
This is the last one, that's going to be good. And I really think Batman is kind of what hurt his career. Of course, I've always heard that he was not a difficult person, but he was a little bit difficult to work with, as in like with directors, because like a lot of actors are artists and they have their vision for the character, and he could be argumentative with directors. And I felt that, Batman kind of killed his career, and as well as Island of Dr. Moreau, because you can only have so many movies that are not successful.
Yeah.
And because I love, like I said, I love the Quicken. No, Darkness. Shit, what's the name of that movie?
Yeah, with the lions.
With the lions, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Heart of Darkness.
Is it not Heart? It's not Heart of
No.
Darkness. It's something. I mean, we need Chris, or we need a. But anyway, Ghost in the Darkness.
Ghost in the Dark.
Ghost in the Dark. I love the Ghost in the Darkness, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody talks about that movie, but it's such a good movie. And then The Saint was also a great movie.
Oh,
you talk about being characters.
I liked The Saint a lot.
Holy shit! But they just weren't successful, but they should have been.
Yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles. That's how the baker doesn't.
Just so for anyone's out there listening, Jack has been in our chat for the last 10 minutes and has been pinging us nonstop. And then now finally says, I got to go, guys. Talk to you next week. And I just want everyone to write in next week with a lot of fuck yous to Jack. That would make me happy.
It would make us all very happy.
Yeah.
rcadcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and subscribe to us on Ramblecast After Dark on YouTube. That would help us out, actually. Any little bit of attention you can throw our way keeps the lights on, keeps us motivated. We are really kind of low motivational, podcasters here, but every little bit helps. If it wasn't for Sherry and our former Randy.
And then
what were you gonna say?
I'm still thinking Star Wars. So like,
I thought you were like, and our 1, 2, 3, 4 patrons that make this show possible.
No. Well, like the Tales of the Underworld, is that the 4th, or it's coming out really soon, like the next few days?
Is it a cartoon?
It's a cartoon, yeah. So you have Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith. Now it's Tales of the Underworld. So it's a lot of Cad Bane and Asajj Ventress.
Okay.
So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I thought the Darth Maul thing was coming out, or was that just announced?
That's just announced.
That was just announced. Yeah, that's right.
That'll be good too, though.
The Darth Maul. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Well, just the fact that the guy, I always forget his name, the actor that does the voice now. He loves doing it. When he's at Japan.
Sam.
It's something easy. Yeah.
Winter something with a W.
Yeah.
No.
But just him doing the what did he do? It's like It's not a name I'm quite familiar with, or whatever, but
Yeah.
he does the voice so good, and just, I really like him doing. Never met him. I've met the actual Darth Maul a couple times. Nice guy.
The actual Darth Maul.
Well,
The actual person.
the actual person
From a
portrayed.
long time ago.
Yeah.
They visited me in a dream.
I'm just going blank today.
Yeah, it's all right. It's our age.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the ticket. See? I was gonna say Tales of the Jedi was, fine. They used the name. That's fine. But for me, that Tales of the Jedi evokes this comic book. It takes place a long time ago. It takes place in the back. Yeah, and it has to deal with like kind of like some Jedi Sith kind of early wars. Right. And I love that shit. And so,
well, the cartoon series that came out 2 years ago.
I mean, I like the cartoon. I like the cartoon. It just it had my hopes up. I was like, oh, that would be cool if they did Tales of.
Well, I've wanted that for a long time, and like that's where I felt Disney is really just another reason why they're screwing shit up. It's like, people want to see Darth Revan, and they want to see Bane, and they want to see all these. You've got thousands of years of stuff to go to,
sure,
and they don't. And it's like, I want to see those Sith stories, and that's why I loved Tales of the Jedi 2 years ago. Tales of the Sith, I was not enthused about because it wasn't really about Sith. It was more about these Padawans that are and it's like, that's not really Tales of the Sith though. It's like, if you're gonna do it, then make it about some random apprentice or something.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that when people start making a show, or it's like, oh, we don't want to deal with somebody else's intellectual property. We want to make it new. So we want to start new. We don't want to have to deal with, even though there are fans that are clamoring for, like you said, Darth Revan, and they know because like the toys sell. Like it always, like there's a comic book. I started to mention this last week, because I think Jack was talking about Cindy and how much she paid for the meat, and then we had that whole, well, I accidentally bought this comic. I thought it was $5, but it was 50.
50.
Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? What did I do? Like, also it was just kind of like, how did I miss that? Like when he rang me up, I was like, oh yeah, I did. I had this many. Okay, whatever. Here's the thing. And then I was like, oh fuck, why did I? So it's because it's the first mention of Malik, who becomes Darth Malik,
right?
And it's from this series called Knights of the Old Republic, not related to the video game, but the comic book series. Really kind of fleshes out a lot of these kind of old, and it kind of takes place a little bit just beyond Tales of the Jedi, like what you've read with the Sith takes place maybe like 50 years after that. So you kind of hear or some references to that in Tales of the Old Republic.
To me,
Knights of the Old Republic is what it is. Yeah.
Because if I was going to make you couldn't call it Tales of the Jedi, but if you're going to make something like, Birth of the Jedi or something like that, to me, you have such potential to show a balance of light and dark, because that's where I would want to go with it. I would want to start where the original teachings are a balance, and then something happens. You could even bring in, the father, the son, and the daughter if you wanted to.
Sure. But
something happens to where there's a shift, and all the people that go to the dark side, which are just dark Jedi at this point, there's no such thing as Sith, they leave. And that's where the Jedi become born. It's like, hey, you are just a group of Jedi, and all I want you to do is find our lost brothers, and bring them back. But after millennium,
right?
Naturally things separate. And this is where you lead this into where you're getting at in the prequels of not just the dogmatic view of the Jedi. You get into this where these two worlds really separated and why you have this light and dark. And it like I said, it mirrors, it should echo, and it would really, you could really make it into a neat series.
They did a book, and they did 3 comic book series called Dawn of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
And
Yeah.
I really enjoyed
Mhm.
that. And it was a book
I
that was
didn't like that you
published.
had I didn't like that you had pyramids kidnapping children off of planets, but yeah, in the very beginning. But
Yeah, the book I read, I think, first. So, but what I enjoyed about the book, which I don't know
the
if it
book
really
is different
described
than the book is different than
than
yeah,
the comic. I
than
mean,
the
they're
comic.
supposed to be connected somewhat, but the book was a good read, and it came out right before the Disney purchase. So
Mhm.
it's kind of where they were headed with some new stories. And I've been really enjoying kind of going through a lot of these Dark Horse comics that I've been reading, and really kind of some of the stories that don't deal with the original trilogy or even the saga trilogy. Just kind of going to kind of some of these like more darker fringe nights and kind of stories that just are. It's almost more freeing in a way where you're just kind of like, okay, we're not dealing with the main the saga shit.
Mhm.
It's just I don't know, because it's Star Wars is huge,
It is
and
huge. Yeah.
I think as fans we go through different phases where it's just like Beatle fans. It's like, I'm not into this album right now. I'm
Right.
picking up the, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you just kind
Yeah.
of you're like
Mhm.
deep diving in. So that's kind of where my where I'm at right now is that I'm really kind of enjoying a lot of these other. So Andor kind of really fits into that because it's off the saga track, even though
Right. I
even though
think
it
yeah.
connects, it's just slightly adjacent.
I think that's the appeal of it to a lot of
Mm,
people is that it doesn't deal with lightsabers, doesn't deal with the Force, and it's also not for kids. It's actually kind
yeah.
of written for adults, because
Hmm.
it is a better crafted series, and so like I said, like that's what I appreciate about it as
Hmm.
well. I still kind of yearn a little bit for that Mandalorian kind of vibe, though, of just like, hey,
Mm,
I want to see I want to see Andor blow somebody away every now and then,
for
or
sure.
something.
I
It's
mean, I think that was some of the joy that we got out of that tie interceptor,
yeah.
and all of that stuff that had kind of gone down. But as with the first season, they have these moments where they're really kind of building towards these larger set pieces, and they just kind of hit you all at once.
Well, also, it's one of those things where he tells Jane or so, something in uh, Rogue One where he's like, you have no idea what I've sacrificed,
Right.
or something. And I still have yet to see that, and that's one of the other things too. Like, I mean, it's something that's really
I
pressing,
but I but we have. I mean,
Okay,
even last week when you talked about like he was on a quest to find his sister,
right.
it's like that whole first 3 story arc of the first season is really about him finding a new family.
Mm,
Like there's two stories in those first 3 episodes where you see him as a child kind of find this new family on that planet, and it's
mm,
kind of like almost kind of adopted or stolen really away as the spacecraft kind of is like, oh, well, we're taking this kid with us, and then he's
right,
separated, right?
right.
So he's kind of like just swept up by this other family. Meanwhile, the other storyline is him being swept up away from this family unit, the
From the fake,
woman,
yeah, from the new family,
from
yeah.
the into the Luthen's family. So
Mm,
he's really kind of being pulled away, and you see that echo or kind of mirror each other, how he is. So it's one step
perpetual
further.
orphan, yeah.
Yeah, well, and now we see it with in the first 3 we see Basso, what happens with him.
Mhm,
Now with this one we see the other person, well, both Bix and Willman. We see kind of how they're being taken over. So,
mhm.
but I digress. I mean, I just I think we see it kind of slowly eating away or chipping away. So, and even just the fact that he has no regard for life.
Right.
Like I mean, if it comes down to it, he is. We saw that at the beginning of Rogue One, but we've really seen them kind of slowly dial up the pressure on him, where it's like he's willing to shoot shoot this person just to, just to survive,
Right.
basically. So
I think that's common in any war, though.
yeah.
Like, because I can't remember which movie it is. It's definitely a World War II film. You know, maybe it's Band of Brothers. But somebody says that where when you start off in war, you're a kid and you're naive and you think like my job is to just try to win this and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and then the officer basically goes, you don't realize you're already dead. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as you stop seeing them as a person,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to kill them. Like you just that's it. Your job is to kill and move on.
Right.
And you're letting a piece of yourself die.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens.
I mean,
And
this is why people have PTSD, or
right.
before that, shell shock. It's like the aftermath of those switches being turned off, and then trying to come back
Right.
from what you said. It's like you're already dead. Okay, well, when you come back from that, it's like we all know it's like people are just not the same.
No, you're not.
So,
You're never the same. Yeah.
right.
And I think that's why, and it's who is, because I've seen too many documentaries and stuff like that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
just there is another famous where someone says that it's like a veteran, like an old person is talking about that how he always pities youthful kids that are so eagerly to go to war, because if they only knew, you would never wish that on anybody because
Right.
you'll never be the same.
Mm-hmm.
That gleeful person is gone, from that point on, and it's I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, much like the show. The show is now gone. It's it's just Nick and I kicking back.
It is funny though how I think it's only ever been whenever we've done a Ramblecast and it's just two people. It's always just you and me. It's never like you.
I thought there was a Jack and I one.
There might have been.
I think Jack
Okay.
and I held it down at some point, but yes, yeah, no, it's never going to be Chris and Nick holding down the fort.
Oh God, can you imagine?
It's like, how do we start record?
Yeah,
guys, I can't log in.
Yeah, what's going on here? And then it would just be me talking to myself for a while, and Chris just looking at his phone or Googling something. Oh, sorry, Nick. What were you saying?
No, I have this. I have noticed this about Chris, and I don't know if any listeners have ever picked up on this, but when it's the four of us, Chris will oftentimes just be kind of like the fourth wheel and kind of take the back seat.
Yeah.
But if there's three of us,
he's on. Yeah.
He's on. He is like he is part of the he is engaged. Yeah. So there's definitely a trifecta effect with Chris.
Well, I think it's harder because, like, even me, like when it is four, it's just the way all four of our brains work. Like you'll say something I think it's really interesting and it peaks, and I think of something I want to say, but then Chris will take us in a completely different direction, and I'm like, "Fuck, I really wanted to talk there," and then by the time 20 minutes has gone by, I'm like, fuck it."
Well, and if there is four of us, if one person is trying to just like explain something simple. There's one person that's most likely listening, and the other two are just like, "Fuck you, we're cracking up," and like we're just like riffing on top of whatever. And then the third person will jump in and join the other two, and then the one person is just like, "Fuck it, I can't even talk about this."
Jerry, that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Is like, I do get quiet when there's four. It's usually because Chris or anybody, it could be in the other three, have really got something they want to talk about.
Yeah.
And then my brain is already thinking, oh, there's a good way to go. There's a good way to go. And by the time I get the half second where I can chime in, we're already 20 to 25 minutes down the line. I'm like, it's all right. Unless it's just something I really want to say, and then I'll interrupt. But yeah, I can be quiet and I can be really chatty. But like today.
Like today, it's all Nick, all Matt, all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I guess aside from TV. Oh, by the way, really, I'm going to recommend the Rehearsal one more time. It's on HBO Max.
Oh right, I think I heard that last time.
The first episode of season 1. So it's not a show where you have to see all episodes like all the way through. Although season 1 has a through arc. You could just watch the first episode from season 1 to get the idea.
Right.
However, you could also jump in on season 2, episode 1, and watch this season, which I could have just done and not even watched the first season. The first season, again, there's a larger storyline of him kind of having this pretend family. And it's kind of weird, and sometimes you're gonna question, like, is this ethically right? Some of the things that they do. But I will say that I like the focus of season 2 and how it has to deal with air travel. It's something that we all, if we've stepped on a plane at this point, we understand the players involved, and it really is focusing on this pilot co-pilot dialogue or lack thereof. And I've enjoyed these first 2 episodes, and just it's weird.
No.
It is a weird show. It has also made me go back and watch Nathan For You, which is a lot more comedy based. I can see why this show is on Comedy Central, and I can see why HBO Max was like, oh, we would like you to do something for us along these same lines. And then, it's a little bit more advanced or mature or elaborate or demented. Take your pick. I would love some feedback. If anyone else has seen this, again, we're dying to read your email. We've mentioned the email multiple times, more than any other episode, really. But send us some emails. I'd love to hear from anybody else that's seen this show and knows what I'm talking about. It is some unique stuff.
Yeah, I finished on Netflix. I finished The Recruit. If you remember a couple weeks ago, I said, "Oh yeah, I'm watching the show called The Recruit that this guy recommended to me," and then Chris goes, "Oh, that show got canceled." I'm like, "Son of a bitch!" And so I kept watching it just because I'd started it. It's only 2 seasons, but I see why it got canceled. Because season 1 is like a solid 7.8. It's a decent show. You're like, okay, this could get really good. And then season 2 kind of not as good, but it's not bad. But it's just not. It doesn't keep you as intrigued as season 1 did.
Those are good shows to have on in the background when I work.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's it's basically a guy. He's a lawyer for the CIA, and he gets kind of pulled into operations. And he doesn't know what he's doing, and we've
all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yeah,
I mean, somebody included him in on a Signal chat, and all of a sudden he's got all of the classified information. So he's being hunted by the CIA. Right. We've all been there.
Yeah, and then Last of Us season 2's been out for 3 weeks now. There's been 3 episodes released, and
I have wanted to. I didn't watch season 1.
Oh,
that's been on my list of to
season
watch.
Season 1's pretty solid. Yeah.
So, I watched the first episode, I believe, and I think I'm on to episode 2.
So I never played the video game, but most of the people that I know who have played the video game have been appreciative of the show. Of season 1, I remember the only complaint I ever heard about season 1 was in season 1. It's or in the game, it's more of like a father-daughter kind of, or like a teacher-apprentice type relationship, because she's a young girl.
Right.
He saves her and he's trying to teach her how to survive. They kind of get rid of that in season 1 of the show, and it's more of just like, hey, it's just 2 people trying to survive.
Right.
And in this season, like I said, it's still kind of developing.
I mean, that's kind of like what The Road is.
Yeah, it's like The Road. It's like The Road. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have made, I think, the kind of the mistake. Like I said, there's only been 3 episodes, but kind of like how The Walking Dead did, whereas in like the zombies in Walking Dead are such a main focus in those early couple seasons, and then this one, like the season 1, they're a main focus, and this one they've kind of taken a back burner in a way.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, like I don't like that usually, but
yeah, you like the reality to continue on. My son's been watching The Flash, so I've been watching The Flash, and because I stopped watching it up to a certain point, so for a while I could just go ahead, kid, blah blah blah. Now we're kind of caught up, and we're like in season 7 now. But it's like fairly early on in the show. It's like they establish, like in season 1, it's like if he runs too fast, he'll burn off his clothes. so that's why he has to wear the suit. But then by like season 2, like it's just we've abandoned that altogether. Like that just doesn't. And the fact that he picks up and carries people really long distances, I'm like, well, he has to lift that person, right, and run at the same time. Like, anyway, go ahead. And it's just some of the stuff you're just kind of getting.
Well, things that are that's actually one of my biggest nitpicks. If it's like things like an Ant-Man, even though I like Ant-Man, it is well established early in the film that no matter what size you are, your mass remains the same. So if you're really big, you still only punch and move like you would as a regular person. If you're really small, though, because you're tiny, you have the impact of yourself, but you're really tiny.
Right.
Like, okay, so that makes sense. But then, like, oh, but you can shrink a tank down and put it on your keychain. It's like, no, that thing weighs like how many tons? There's no way that could happen. Like, and so it's like you're ignoring the same rules that you've established here. So that stuff like that always irks me. I get it. It's a comic book story, but like it's like, well, then why say it if you're gonna?
I'm of two minds. I have I don't know. I just finished personally, aside from TV talk. I just personally finished I'm kind of at the tail end, I will say, of teaching for the semester. So my classes kind of finish up here, and so I'm really kind of down to Monday, which is a field trip day, which is kind of fun. So, well, for my comic book class, I have my last day be a bonus day. So like if you've missed some days, if you're like kind of then, and then of course the people that love comic books and are already getting an A in the class, they just want the opportunity to go to a comic book store as a field trip. I mean, it's kind of
cool.
And I give them, and I even give it, it's like our class usually starts at 3, so it's like we meet there at 3:30, give them plenty of time, to like get there. But I think it's a nice way to kind of end the class, So, so I have that on Monday, and then I have a bunch of grading to do. What's up?
Did you see? I'm not sure what university it happened in. I saw it yesterday. Some college professor dressed up as Gandalf. Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
I don't know how he's not getting fired for it or someone complaining. But he basically comes into the classroom as Gandalf and says, names off like these people and says, "Would you please stand?" Blah, 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 blah. And then he goes, "You shall not pass." Everyone else, you got to see or hire, class dismissed. And you're like,
oh, wow. That is hilarious. Yeah, there's always students that, okay, we gotta address the elephant in the room. Sherry in the chat is saying, so Nick, are you trying to say you want more nudity in the Flash and consistency with the burning of clothes?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to, like, I was
we can
just
take
saying,
CW,
like what Matt's saying is if you establish something that he cannot run in clothes because they will burn off, then you need to stick to that rule because that's what you've done. It's like, you could name that with anything, with Star Trek or Star Wars or anything else. Like, you can't establish a rule and then go against the rule.
Sherry, I'm all for it if they move the show to like HBO Max and we can get some Game of Thrones nudity. So, and then Matt Treist also says not enough chafed thighs on the Flash.
Gold bond.
Yeah, very, very good. They needed to kind of explain or have Cisco come up with some kind of like, here's some kind of lubricant that we put together so that you don't create too much friction down there. So. Or nipples. Like
that's where I was going to go. Is bleeding nipples.
Like,
yeah.
Like the first time he runs, it's just like he comes back, it's just bleeding. Anyway, we were saying though, something else, but now I completely. Oh, school. I'm done. Teaching. Blah blah blah. Grade some papers. Grade bunch of grading to do, and but then I can put a pin in that, and it's kind of one of those things. It's like, it's like it's just turned May, and I'm like, I'm so close, and I'm so done, but it's like, well, they still have to turn everything in on the 5th. So then it's just like, they're still like, so it's like, by the time I'm done, it's like, it does feel like, you know.
I always hated that too, because like, I mean, I'm sure it's the same way for you when you were in school. Like,
Mm,
you had your last day of class, and then there was like 2 or 3 weeks that would go by,
yeah.
and you're still technically in class, but you're not in
Right.
class anymore, and like
Hmm.
your brain just shuts off at that point where you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, and yeah, that always drove me nuts. Of course, like December was completely different because you didn't have that gap. It was just
Yeah. It wasn't. It was. Yeah. You kind of. It's just kind of a little lull, and then you got to picked it back up again and
yeah.
kept going. Yeah. So. But I have that. I totally had that kind of summer fever of like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, So I'm
Uh,
hoping to get some more time in the studio.
that's
So.
what that's what I'm looking forward to. For everyone who doesn't know, like I'm going to Italy here shortly, and
Oh,
not
you're gonna get some time in the studio.
yeah. So I mean, so Colorado tried to pass the same law that California has, which was like you cannot lose PTO. So they kind of wanted a continual rollover
Mm,
in a way. But my company, being a French company, chose to read
mm,
the law as slightly different, and that like, oh yes, you're correct. We cannot penalize you, but if we say you can only take so many days per year, then once you max out at that, it cannot no longer accrue.
mm.
And so what everyone has gone to now is like we roll over so many days at the end of the year. And before June gets here, we try to use all those days that roll over. That way they keep accruing. And so that's why, like, this is my first PTO I've really taken in a long time. So because I rolled over 9 days. So I was like,
Oh
oh,
wow.
well, I was like, I'm going to use them all. So
So you're traveling to Italy
for
for
work,
work
for
though,
work. Yeah.
but you're gonna take some personal time while you're there?
Yeah, I'm only taking a few days in Italy actually
Hmm.
because that would be an expensive trip to do on my own.
Sure,
So
sure.
I'm going to Milan, and I've already booked 2 tours. One of Milan itself, and then I'm taking a train up to Lake Como and spending the day up there, and taking a boat and seeing all that. And I had originally, another coworker had said like she wanted to go down to Rome. I said, "Oh, I'm perfectly
Mm,
fine with that if you want to." I was like, "Let's rent a car. Let's go down to
mhm.
Florence, maybe see the
Let's rent
coast."
a Vespa.
Yeah, yeah, can you imagine? Or yeah, the little
Yeah.
scooter all the way.
Uh,
God,
yeah.
like Dumb and Dumber, like zoop, bug, Uh, but she ended up backing out, so I was like, okay,
Well,
it's fine. So I was like, I've been to Italy before, so it wasn't a.
you were not her Roman Empire. Have
Uh,
you heard that?
I am not the Roman Empire. Yeah.
No, like, it's like, what's your Roman Empire? Have you heard of that phrase? Like, what's your Roman Empire? It's like,
Oh,
what's your, like, it's like a, I don't know.
what's your tragedy?
Yeah, no, it's like, like people were really into the Roman Empire. So it's kind of meaning like,
Oh,
what's this thing that you're like so fascinated by that it would like consume you? It's like, what do you think
oh.
about the most? It's like, this is slang that I've heard.
I think I don't. I don't understand why people are fascinated. I think somewhat understand why people are fascinated with the Roman Empire. I think it's because it's one of the few civilizations that we have actually a lot of history on to see its rise and fall, whereas in everything else is kind of either lost, in time or in the Dark Ages, or who knows. But
Sherry says, Nick, when you go to Italy, the price is not the price. You can always haggle it down. Then ask how much if I pay in cash, and they'll go even lower. So especially for humans. So that's from Sherry. So that's really sick. Anyway, she also says Como is my favorite. I am joking. Sherry did not make a human rights violation on this show, but
uh, but yeah, I've never been. I've been all over Italy. I haven't been to Sicily, and I have not been to Lake Como. So that was one of the reasons why I'm going to Lake Como this time. But I've been to the rest of it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a good country.
My wife, she wanted to go to Italy, kind of celebrate our 50th.
Hmm.
We're both turning 50 next year.
Damn.
So, yeah, right.
I guess in my mind, you're always like 47 or 46.
Thank you.
Because that's
I'm always in the mid
Right, and always in the mid 40s. Like you're
I'm always in
slightly
the
older than me, but
uh-huh.
not a lot older. But it's because that's the way I am with most people. Usually,
Yeah.
whatever age I meet you at, that's
Yep.
the age you always are.
For sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. To me, you're always in your late 30s, early 40s.
Right.
So yeah.
And
until you catch up to me.
right.
But I mean, even when Chris, said he was
Oh,
44, I was like, what? That doesn't make sense to me. It's like I should be 44 and you should be like 38 or something. It's like,
right.
um, but anyway, we went to Paris, last year, and this year we don't really have like big summer plans because usually what we do is we'll do, one year bigger adventure, another year save, maybe something locally or within a state away. So so we have kind of some summer, we booked a nice spot actually up in Michigan for this summer. But next year we were talking about places to go, and she was talking about Italy. And
Hmm.
this is the thing about I keep saying my wife.
My wife. Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why I'm like weird about like saying her name or something. It's not like it's like witness protection. But um the thing about Denise though is that I know that she doesn't like big crowds.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like she gets worn down. Like Disney was hard for her, like we had a great time at Walt Disney, because she really enjoyed um Epcot
Oh
because
yeah.
you could walk around and there was a whole France, and they had really
Right.
great wine. But anyway, big crowds can wear her down. And I'm like, why don't we think about, like, I'm not opposed to going to a European country,
Well,
but what if we went someplace that was a little bit more isolated and remote and
well,
not
that's what I'm
as
saying. Like if
so
you're wanting to avoid people,
yeah.
then
Mhm.
it's either going to be Iceland or
Yeah.
Scotland or Hungary, uh, Poland.
Hmm.
Uh,
Interesting.
because I mean Paris. I mean a lot of France is pretty wide open too. Like aside from
Sure.
Paris,
Yeah.
because like Italy,
Well, and
if you don't like people, I wouldn't go to Italy.
when we did France or when we did Paris, it was like we were specifically just doing Paris. We were like, we're not gonna break our backs and try to do it all. We kind of always thought like if we ever come back, we would go to a different area or a different locale or a different country.
Mhm.
So, and yes, Sherry, Florence is very crowded. It's like being in the mall at Christmas time, and that's why I
Right.
was kind of like, well,
Yeah, because I love
if we,
Florence, but exactly.
yeah,
If you're gonna go in either March or October, when it's not
right.
a
And
tourist.
that would be the other thing that I would float with her is just like,
Yeah,
hey, what if we went on an off season?
yeah,
But while the kids are in school, it becomes a little bit more. So
true.
that's where I've been kind of like floating out some different countries or opportunities for us to visit some places that are, she loves the mountains, she loves nature, she
Hmm.
loves being, hiking and just so those aspects are always kind of um anyway, that's um my 2 cents. We got on that topic, but
That's
oh,
also the reason why
Italy.
I
Yeah,
like.
your
Oh,
trip to Italy. Yeah, that's how we got on it. Sorry, I was just
right.
trying to
Yeah.
figure out
Well,
how
no,
we
just we're
got
just talking
there.
about travels. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like living out west too, is because
Mm,
depending on where you're going, but there's a lot of really good gyms out
mhm.
in the west where you can literally go and be in heaven and not be
Yeah,
around a single soul.
right.
Whereas in like if I go, I have yet to go to Glacier Park because it's a
Mhm.
fucking nightmare.
Mm,
Because all the campsites are booked way
yeah.
before March even gets here. It's one hell of a drive up there,
Mhm.
and it's just like I don't
No,
like.
I mean, some of the more popular sites, it gets to the point where it's so cutthroat to get into them that you're
Yeah,
just, so finding those smaller parks or the parks or trails that are off the beaten path that are a little
right.
bit more or less, I mean,
And that's what always amazed me about Rocky, because I live right next to Rocky Mountain National Park, and there's only one trail that's below 5 miles,
hmm,
and yet it's like, what are you guys coming to see? Because I know your ass ain't walking 20 miles, like because like all the hikes are
sure.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's what makes me laugh. Of course, it's only open really about 4 months out of the year.
Mm,
Uh,
mhm.
yeah.
Sherry, also for everyone that's listening and wants more Italy travel
Right.
notes, she says never go to Italy in July or August. A lot of things are shut down.
Yeah.
Locals go to the sea or the mountains during those months.
Yeah.
So,
Especially, yeah, like August is pretty much a no go for all of Europe.
mm-hmm.
That's when they take their sabbaticals. I know, especially in France, that's when they basically have the whole month off
Yeah.
of
Mm-hmm.
August. Which there's definitely certain things I agree with, certain things I don't agree with, but like that is one of the things that I would kind of somewhat like to see in the US is like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like we should have like a mandatory, like
Yeah.
everyone's off. And like even though I never liked a lot of California's laws, the one law I always liked about
Mm-hmm.
California was the property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's just LA County or if it's all of California, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like whatever you buy your house at, you're
Right.
locked in that property tax for as long as you own that property. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine buying your house in 1960,
Sure.
and your property taxes are like $30.
Right.
And it's like that's what you're paying the entire time you live
Yeah.
there. Because like that, I've always thought that was injustice. Because imagine
Mm-hmm.
being 75 or 80 years old right now, and your
Mm-hmm.
property taxes were $2,000 last month or last year, and then all of a sudden they go up to 4,000, and you're on a fixed income of Social
Right.
Security or whatnot. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're probably freaking out, and that to me is just not fair.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to get on a political rant, but that's, I mean, just like I like certain aspects of certain
Yeah. I mean,
societies.
there are definitely like, pros and cons to it. I mean, like here in our state, they froze property tax. It's never going to go above whatever number it was. I can't remember. It was always going to be at that fixed point. And then they've tried to lower that even further. But I mean the problem is that some of the programs that get cut, that need that property tax, and we've seen it locally where, you know, they want the business to come into town,
Mm,
right? So they'll give them a real good sweet deal of like, hey, you don't have to pay property tax, for so many years. And then at the end of that year, the company's basically like, well, we're gonna leave unless you like extend this. They almost kind of like get the and so there's all of this money that has been kind of taken out of like, well, the road that goes in front of your place that has to be fixed, but you aren't paying for that. We, the public that have houses nearby your business or factory or whatever it might be, we're paying the effects of that, but you, the business, are not. So there's certain things like that, or just how they've stripped even further money back from going to, you know. So that's where I'm not like for my property tax being higher because, well, let's face it, the house is paid for. So why am I still paying taxes on
right.
it? It's like,
I mean,
so
there's a lot of taxes don't agree with, but that one
yeah,
especially because
right.
it's like, yeah, if you own your house
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you're still paying yearly taxes on it,
right.
you really own your house?
Are you
Because
are you asking me if I really own our house?
no, I'm saying I'm just
Yeah.
posing a general question because
Mm,
if you just decide I own my house, I don't want to pay property taxes
right.
on it, they'll take your house from you, and it's like,
Right.
well, then did I really own it?
Right.
Because
Yeah, like
that's
who
what I'm
who
saying.
won't, right?
Who
Yeah,
owns it?
no, it's like if the mortgage is paid off, the bank's been paid off, everything's settled.
Yeah,
It's like, but it's not. It's just a ruse.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, you think you own it, but you don't. You're
right,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
it's like it's the I ran a small business there for quite a while, ran me ragged. And I'd always see commercials for, like, all of these commercials that are like, run your business like a boss, and you can be anything as a small business owner, and isn't it great being as a small business owner? I do this to me, it's like
Right.
it sells this idea to the rest of the, it's just like, oh, this is the great. It's like, oh no, it's like, welcome to your life never being turned off,
Right.
because there is always an email, there's always an issue, there's always a shipping thing, there's always more computer work to be done, there's this to, I mean, and then just when you think you have a moment to breathe, that's when something's going to come along and just be like, oh fuck no, like you got to solve this problem now. And it's a constant, it's like treading water, and people just keep giving you books.
Like to hold above your head, or
or just they're floating by you. And you're supposed to collect them. I don't know. It's a metaphor, but that there are moments when I look at my phone and I don't have 50 emails, and I'm so relieved.
Yeah, right.
I'm so relieved not to be tethered. Now, I miss certain aspects of it, but some of that shit, oh man, that shit could just wait for another commercial break.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, we should probably take one. I heard somebody make an interesting argument about, in most of our minds, lower, middle, and upper class is about money. Like how much money do you get every year, or how much money do you have, or whatnot. And someone made an argument that said that really shouldn't be the way you think about it anymore. He said, really, the vast majority of us are lower class. And he said, because if you are dependent on your money coming from someone else, you're lower class. If you own your own business and generate your own money, no matter what it is, you're middle class. And if you can take the money and then generate money off of your money, then you're upper class. And I was like, that's such an interesting way of thinking about it. I was like, I had never thought about it like that, but it's like, that's true freedom, and I was like, wow.
No, it is 100% right in the fact that, most of us will never know that freedom, to just be like, oh, I don't have to worry about work.
Right.
Like that idea, if you don't have to worry about, there's another point in there, but I keep getting lost in my mind, due to the one beer I had. Yeah, I had a beer. I had a beer tonight. I was like, I
usually drink 3 if but tonight I was like, 2's fine.
2, kicking it up. Yeah. Or kicking it down.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow I'm going to work probably in the morning, and then I'm going to go watch Thunderbolts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
See if that's any good. I've heard it's got a pretty good rating. I've heard that it sets up pretty well, but the third act flounders a little bit. So we'll see.
I like the whole, Suicide Squad dark side, grouping, like, losers or zeros becoming heroes. I like that whole motif. Yeah. So yeah, I keep forgetting that that's out, or that's coming out.
Yeah, I kept thinking it was going to come out this summer, and then I was like, oh, it's already out. Cool.
Yeah, I've been having horrible kind of headaches and what have you, and I went to see a person about it, and they gave me some medicine, and I've been just
good. Treist. Yeah, Matt Treist, he just saw it.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't bore you with all my health stuff, but that is another thing that is a definite lower middle class versus upper class kind of thing is just health insurance, the scams of it all. It's like I go to see one. So first of all, I went to my general practitioner. Was like, hey, I'm having these problems. He gives me migraine medicine. He's like, I'm going to give you a referral. Go to this person, meet with them. They look me over. I have notes. I am so detailed. I have listed out every time I've had a headache for the last, basically, the 6 weeks between seeing my general practitioner and then getting in to see the specialist. The 6 weeks in between, I had already lined it. I was like, this. These are all the days. This is where it happened. This is what was happening. This is what I took. He's like, wow, you're prepared. And I was like, well, I teach. And he was like, well, that makes sense. It's like the fact that I was prepared. So then fast forward, they're like, okay, we're going to give you these drugs, take these drugs, do this treatment. And then we're going to kind of do a CT scan in 6 weeks so we can see kind of if it's done its job, if it's working. So then I find out that this place that I went to see is not in network. They're not covered in network. So now already paid $80 for the specialist fee. Now I got to spend $25 more because I'm not covered. Okay. So now I'm like, okay, but I still have to have the CT scan. And they're like, well, that's not covered by your insurance through us. And I'm like, yeah, but I set it up at this hospital, which is supposed to carry my insurance. And she was like, well, through us, our insurance, so it would be out of pocket, which would be $1,000, more something. And I'm just like so fucking frustrated because at this point, my best option is cut my losses and basically go with a brand new ENT doctor that's in my network, start from square one. And of course, I can't see them until middle of June at best. So now I got to push back anything that I'm trying to solve with my migraines. I got to push that off until June to actually see someone to start the whole process again of them saying, well, this is what we should do. And I wish that the general practitioner could refer me to the CT scan. I might just reach out to my general practitioner again, especially before he changes on me. That's the other thing about health. It's just like, oh, you get in with one doctor and it's like, oh, you're leaving the practice. Fuck, now I got to find a new doctor that knows all my shit, right?
Yep.
So, and it's just frustrating. Like I even got a letter from my insurance that was basically saying like, even the CT scan, they were like, do I really need this? Like, is this like, we need proof that this is actually needed? And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what is the $600 that I pay a month fucking for if I can't even get, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's just fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
I can see why people would get upset at CEOs.
Well,
I'm just saying that, it's like they squeeze out the little guy for what? Better profit, and the money should just be there. The money should just be, and we do have a health savings fund, which is different than insurance. So we already do have one of those that we can use, but just fucking like cut this shit with a knife and just like this should be simple. It should just be one, like, hey, pay into this, go in. I could go into any doctor, get this shit taken care of.
I agree. It should be any doctor. I don't
Any
understand
doctor.
why.
It's like it's like, okay, I paid into this. Any doctor should be able to cover me.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna get your money. You're gonna get your money at some point.
It's just like it blows my mind because I've seen an endocrinologist all the time because just diabetes.
Right.
And when I moved to it's weird because like the endocrinologist I had in Knoxville was great, very thorough. And then I moved to LA and I went to the cancer institution because they had a diabetes section.
Okay.
And they were, God, they were so good. I mean, completely changed my life. I mean, like, made me do different things, maybe try different things. I was like, this is great. Then I move up here and Leveland, Fort Collins is probably close to 100,000 people, if maybe more combined. Probably more. I don't know. It's a lot. They're not small towns, and it's impossible to get good doctors up here because everybody wants to go to Denver or Boulder.
Right.
And my endocrinologist when I got up here was, he was a little older guy and he retired about 2 years ago. And I remember because I was supposed to see one at least every 6 months. Most of the time it's usually 4. When he retired, they didn't have anybody. They couldn't hire anybody. The entire area didn't have one endocrinologist. And then they put me on a wait list and they called me up and they said, oh, you're not going to be able to see them until May of 2025. And this was over a year ago. And I was like, oh, What am I supposed to do about prescriptions? What am I supposed to do about all this other stuff? I can't just wait a year,
Yeah.
And so they go, "Oh, we'll get your general practitioner to write you those prescriptions." I was like, "Yeah, but he doesn't know what he's doing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's not a
Right.
diabetes doctor." And so that's what I had to do.
Mm.
They got some guy from Africa to come in as a temporary doctor, and it was one of those things where the patient should never be smarter than the doctor. And it was one of those where I constantly had to argue with him, and be like, "No, that's not right. That's not right. I know my own health. I know how to do this."
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, and to this day, and I've got lots of friends that are nurses, and that's what they always say. It's like Colorado is such an interesting state because, if you move down the I-70 corridor, which like Aspen and Vail and all that, they'll pay you a lot, but you're also in a very expensive area. And then if you go down Durango, they'll pay you a lot too. However, you're also right against all the Native American reservations in New Mexico and Arizona, and they end up you want to quit because you have such an influx of people that you're just overwhelmed all the time.
Right.
And so, like I'm saying, like the safe places to go are Denver and Boulder, and it's just
But then you got to drive so far, and it's like you got to make a day of it, basically. Sherry mentions in the chat. Yeah, Sherry, you mentioned this, I think, a week or so ago about sticking feet into water. That is hot as you can stand, drawing the blood flow away. I do remember you mentioning that. No, I've not done that. Most of my migraines it's all sinus based. I do the hot cold trick, where I run hot water and then I go to cold, and it kind of opens and closes some of those vessels. And then I've also been doing the neti pot, to rinse out my sinuses and kind of keep that shit clear. So, um, yeah, it's one of those it's one of those things that I have been living with for the last several years. And as I do have more time, not running a business, as I do have more time, I'm like, well, let's get to the bottom of this stuff. Like I'd like to fix it. It's like I'm getting to that point where it's just like shit sticks with you. It just kind of stays around. It's just like, well, I don't want to live with this my whole life. I'd like to get to another place. So I think that there's just some sinus passages that if they if they have to go and do surgery or whatever, like if I have a polyp or whatever it is,
I'm sure surely you've just gone to like an ear, nose, and throat doctor too.
Well, that's what I did, but they weren't
Okay.
covered under that's
okay.
And similar to what you're saying, like the one that I went to is called Southern Indiana ENT, and they service all of the south of ENT, but they happen to not carry Cigna, which is a major insurance.
One,
yeah, it's a major one. Yeah. So it's frustrating because it's just like this, and I hate talking to somebody who's just like, well, it's your insurance that's the problem. And I'm like, or is it you for not fucking taking it?
Right.
Like, why is it that you got to be like, oh, sorry, you're with this thing. So, it's just, like I said, it would be a lot simpler if they all, like, we accept all, insurance companies. But it's a scam. On that note,
I always think of when people say they have a headache, I always think of two different things. One is the go-to, which is the Arnold Schwarzenegger, from Kindergarten Cop. It could be a tumor, it's not a tumor. And then the other one was I doubt many people know that it was a 1985 SNL sketch with Billy Crystal and some other guy. And it was kind of like what Kevin Nealon did like a decade later, where like he would say something and then like finish throw in a word. And like Billy Crystal was kind of having this conversation with this guy, and he would start the sentence, and the other guy would finish it with whatever he wanted to say. So he's like, he was like, yeah, so that day I had a headache, and I reached out for this, and the guy goes, ball peen hammer, and he goes, yeah, and I just started whacking the shit.
I remember.
Yeah, he's like, and then I reached over, he goes, you got one of those meat thermometers? Yeah, and I just jammed it in my ear, and that's the other one I always think of. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I swear part of it is weather related too.
Probably.
So
yeah. I mean, I've had arthritis in this hand for my entire life because my sister smashed it when I was 7.
Oh, I
And same
was
thing.
wondering if like you got it cut off by a Sith Lord.
Right. It's just the mechanic. No,
It's
like
just
she
all
is a
metal
sliding
knuckles.
van door and it just went woof right into it. And I've got like scars down these fingers. But yeah, like it's usually every November, December when it starts to change to get really cold. I'll feel it right in these knuckles. And I'm
Do you ever bring it up at Thanksgiving?
every now and then, I don't bring it up.
Oh, okay.
She'll every now and then when she's feeling guilty or she's been around me, she'll grab my hand and look at the scars, as a reminder. But I don't say anything. It is what it is.
Sometimes I just smack her in the face with it and say, "Look at the scars you gave me."
Look what you did.
Look
I can never play piano because of you.
Who can't play piano? Jack, and hopefully he'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll all be back next week. But if we're not, so be it, Jedi. I'll post it in the Facebook group, or you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Just subscribe to Ramblecast After Dark. You'll get notifications when I create the show. Usually we're on Thursdays at 9:30. Thanks for everybody that joined us in the chat live, specifically Sherry and Matt Treist. I appreciate all of your feedback. And I guess Jack, although he's not going to listen to this portion of the show, but if you want to send in your hate mail to Jack, send it to rcadcast@gmail.com. And would like to thank some patrons that make this show possible, specifically Maggie. Thanks for messaging me independently and basically saying that I was both wrong and Chris and Nick are crazy. So Maggie, you are magnificent. Also, Joanne with the plan, Eckhart Richter, and Ed, the cool California letter carrier. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for everybody that joined us live, and thanks, Nick. This was fun. It's amazing that you and I talked for 2 hours. Yeah. So I mean,
well, we build up those other topics that we don't get to talk about, and we just let them off.
That's right. Yeah, all of those times that you didn't get a chance to talk, you could talk. So, but anyway, join us next week. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. See you guys. Bye.